Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me and it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you are not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, as you can see from today's title of the video, I have a book review for you, and this is on Kathryn Troy's The Shadow of Theron, the first installment in her new series, Ages of Shadow. Kathryn reached out to me to ask for an honest book review, and after reading her synopsis, I just had to say yes. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking about this really interesting story. Okay, yes, this is another book review, and this is on The Shadow of Theron. It looks like this, as you can see, and this was written by Kathryn Troy. You can find this book now. It was released on February 28th, and you can find it on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. Now, a few stats about this book. This is the first installment to the Ages of Shadows series. I do not know how long the series is. I think it's going to be a trilogy, but I'm not 100% sure. You can check Kathryn's website. I will link it in the down box down below so you can check out any information more about this book if you'd like. This is an adult fantasy. We do have triggers for murder, sexual content, graphic body horror described on page, and we have some minor LGBTQ representation. And this, I would definitely say, is a Mask of Zorro retelling, which is very, very unique for me. Why did I choose this book? So I was contacted by Kathryn via Instagram. She found me and she mentioned she had this new series, and she gave me the synopsis. I read it and she asked me to review it. And this is one of the few, I've only been doing author requests, actual author requests for reviews for a short time. So she's one of the first ones that actually sought me out and found me, other than Reads Discovery. So I was really, really excited about this. So I definitely jumped on this opportunity, especially after I read the synopsis of this book, which I'm going to read you the specific synopsis that she sent me, which hooked me. So this is exactly what she sent me in her Instagram message after asking me to give an honest review on her book. Holy relics are all that remain of Theron's sacred legend. Now those relics, the enchanted weapons forged by the three-faced goddesses to help Theron defeat the wicked sorcerer Argos, are disappearing. Lysandro knows the village magistrate Merrick is responsible, and he searches for proof disguised as the masked protector, the Shadow of Theron. Seraphine, with secrets of her own, only escalates their rivalry, as the feud between Lysandro and Merrick throws Lighura, I believe is how you pronounce the city that they're in, into chaos. A pair of priestesses seeks to recover the relics and return them to safekeeping, but the stones warn that Argos is returning, and they must race to retrieve Theron's most powerful weapon. As they risk their lives for a legend, only one thing is certain: the three temples have been keeping a secret. I was very, very intrigued by the synopsis, and I was not disappointed. Not disappointed by that whatsoever. This is a great representation of what is all included in this book, and it's a ride. It's a ride, guys, so let's just go right into it. What worked? I loved the plot. There were multiple plots going on, but they all veered to one major plot. This Age of Theron backstory, and gathering all of these artifacts. Some of them are weapons, some of them are keys, just gathering them to prevent this man Argos from returning. I really liked how Troy took all of these plots and weaved them together to create this big arching plot, and it was fantastic. I thought it was great. It was really, really well done. I wasn't really lost in a lot of them. She kept them fairly separated fairly well. So I had a really good job, really good time with that. I love multiple plot points of story, especially adult fantasy series. And I love when I'm pretty for sure of what's going on in each one of them. I like having that kind of assurance that I have a good grasp what's going on. So you do have that in this installment for sure, especially since it is a first installment where you get a lot of the world building. Sometimes some of those plot points can get lost. There wasn't really a lot of that. So we have a really good representation of all these multiple plot points throughout the story. I loved the Zorro references. If you are not familiar with The Legend of Zorro, The Legend of Zorro was a series of small novellas in 1919. And the references that she does I was reading this, I was like, this is the Mask of Zorro with magic. Yes! I was so sold. The minute I figured that out, I was like, fuck me sideways. That was fucking great. I loved this. I'm a huge fan of Zorro. I love The Mask of Zorro. It's one of my favorite movies. I've seen a lot of film renditions of Zorro. I have a great time with it. But some of the homages she pays, I mean, she gets to the nitty gritty, people. Nitty fucking gritty. Not only do we have the masked vigilante sort of part, which is the most obvious one, we have the name of the characters. Lisandro de Castell. Okay? Lisandro de Castell is very, very similar to De La Vega, which is Zorro's name. Hello? I was like, man, that's awesome. Yes. We have the horse. Zorro's horse was Tornado. Lisandro's horse is Hurricane. That was the one that was just like, yes. Don't forget the horse, dude. Don't forget him because he's important. He was important to Zorro and he's important to Lisandro, and they have their own kind of relationship, and I fucking loved it. I thought that was great. I was like, yes, that's awesome. Also, the romantic nature of Lisandro, our hero, is very reminiscent to the overly romantic vigilante masked hero of Zorro. Very reminiscent, but yet in his own way. I definitely loved the juxtaposition between Lisandro as Lisandro and as the shadow of Theron. You do see similarities, but yet you still see them opposite, which is very reminiscent of the whole Zorro story. So I really, really enjoyed that. And then, of course, we have this overarching sense of justice against the corrupt magistrate, which is our antagonist, Merrick, in our story. And I just was like, yes, that was awesome. Now, loving all these Zorro references, I really enjoyed this next element because she took these references and paid homage to it, but she did not directly rip off this story. She created her own, and she did it with fucking magic. Okay, she gave me Zorro with magic, but then gave me another fucking twist in there that I was like, that is not Zorro. This is her own doing, and I thought that was fantastic. I love when authors pay homage to a classic story, but yet make it their own, and then completely just thank you for your help, but now the story's mine. And I love that. I love that she took this and was able to make it her own and its own unique version of it. I thought it was great. This magical world that she created. We get a lot of description of the world, but what we get is enough for you to be satiated for this book. But there are still questions, but they're not questions that you need answered right now. You want them answered, but you don't physically need them to understand the story. So she did a really good job of this balancing of what I'm going to give you versus what I want you to wonder and further installments to kind of keep you engaged and want to continue and pick up the rest of the series. I thought she did a really good job with that magical world building and mixing with this realism with the world. I thought it was fantastic. We get just enough of this war backstory that we need for the story. Like I said, she gives you just enough of what you need in her world building and her backstories for this installment. You don't get anything you don't need. You want shit, but you don't get it. She makes you have to keep coming back for more. And I really, really enjoyed that. I like when authors know just the right amount to give you. Because it's like, I want some more, but you're not going to give it to me. Damn it. I have to wait now. Patience is not a virtue in my book. Thank you. And yeah, so I was definitely like that most of the time. I thought she did a great job with that. I loved our hero. I love Lisandro de Castell. I fucking adored him. I loved his overly romantic way when he was the shadow, and I loved his realistic, almost timid, but yet still sure of himself, hopeless romantic when he's Lisandro as well. I thought he was great. I thought he was great all around. I loved him. I loved him in and outside the mask. I loved both facets of him, and the fact that we got to see such a clear representation of both facets that they were still similar enough to each other to know that they were the same person. I loved it. She did such a good job with this. Without trying to spoil the story, you already know as the reader that Lisandro is the shadow. You are already aware of it, okay? You learn it very early on, but some of our characters don't. But some of our characters do figure it out. And the way they figure it out is because they can tell the similarities between both characteristics. It's just one is more of an elevated aggressive nature, while the other is more of a passive aggressive nature. But yet they're still so side by side next to each other, well done, that you know that they are the same person. They are still fluid enough that they could be from the same person. There's no way you could ever think that this was not this person, but you needed specific notes to really give you that information. And I thought she did a really great job with it. I thought it was awesome. I loved the chemistry between our hero and heroine. Our heroine is Seraphine, and I loved it. Seraphine's quickness, her intelligence complements his nature in general. And I don't really know exactly what it complements. I just know it pairs really, really fucking nicely. Like, it's a nice pairing when you look at it. Her quickness and her intelligence. Seraphine could have been could have her own book, and I'd be content with it, because she was so quick, she was so on point, and she was just a natural badass her fucking self. There's a lot of moments in this book where she's not with Lysandro, and she's taking care of her damn self, she's owning her shit, she's defending herself, and she's even protecting his ass. And I'm like, well, damn. Well, damn. Holy shit. That's fucking awesome. But yet she still made her real. She still gave her fears and concerns. She's afraid of doctors, which I want to know why. So I'm hoping I get some more information about that one. But she still has her own unique characteristic traits. But these traits balance Lysandro so well that they balance each other out so well. It's such a beautiful pairing. She wrote them really, really well together. And I love that. The twist ending. What the fuck? What was that? Okay, didn't see that one coming at all. Not in that way. I had a feeling that what comes to fruition was going to come to fruition, but I didn't realize that it was going to come about that way. Okay? And without spoiling the book, I can't really go into any more detail about that, but it's definitely a twist that you're just like, that's where you put it? Well, damn. All right. She didn't put the twist in the obvious spot, which I really fucking appreciate. I love it when authors give you enough obvious things to make you think, oh, she's gonna do the obvious thing, and then boom, fuck you, here's your twist, not where you expected, and now you gotta read the second book to find out what happens. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I had a great time with that twist ending. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Despite all of the things that worked in this book, there were definitely some things that did not work in this book, for me. So Troy does a really good job of giving us multiple plot points, but there are moments where she doesn't drop the plot. She doesn't lose it, but I feel like in this installment, some of these plots should have been fleshed out a little bit more, because although I'm invested, I'm not as invested in those plot points as I am in others. And I feel like I'm supposed to be, because they're crucial plot points. I mean, if you read this book, you will find the plot points I'm talking about, that these are crucial moments, but yet I feel like I should be more invested. For most of the book, some of those plots, although they were written well and they were carried through very well, I felt like I could do without them because I wasn't as invested in them as I was some of these other ones. And I feel like that's maybe where the loss happened. She didn't drop the plot. She never forgot it. But the emphasis was not really conveyed with these. It was just, I have to continue these on, remind you that they're here. It was just enough to kind of continue on. It wasn't enough to really invest me in those. So I felt like some of them and some of those really should have been invested in a little bit more. Okay, so I love the Zorro references. You just heard me gush about them a little while ago. I fucking adore the Zorro references. I think they're fantastic. However, if you are not familiar with the Zorro story, okay, if you're not familiar with how it kind of goes about and what he stands for and kind of his whole vigilante thing, I feel like you will lose some of the beauty of the first half of this book. Because the first half of this book is where you get a lot of these Zorro references. And then by the end of the book, you stop really getting them. So it feels like the Zorro was just a stepping stone to get her here. But if you're not familiar with that legend, I don't know if the ending is going to have that much impact for you when she takes them away. I feel like the generalized knowledge of what Zorro is and the popularity of that story lends to the strength of this book. And if you are not familiar with that story, the story will not be as strong, because then they're just minor references at that point that really don't mean anything to you because they have no symbolism to you because you're not familiar with that backstory. So I love the references, but somebody who's not familiar with the story, I feel like the first half relied on those references and their symbolism and what they stood for a lot more, so she didn't actually have to put that in the book. I feel like she needed to put some of that symbolism emphasis in the book, so if somebody was not familiar with the Zorro references, they could still get that same beauty and that strength that you need in that first book to really understand the second half of this book. Okay, so the ending is dope as fuck, okay? It is. Twist ending, super, super cool. Except what I don't like is that new characters were introduced in the very last 5 pages of this book, and that's how the twist happens. And I'm like, I have no reference to these characters at all prior to these last 5 pages. And if that's the twist, that's great. It's a great twist. Don't get me wrong. It is a dope ass twist and I did not see coming. But I would have liked to at least had some kind of reference to these characters early on, maybe like 1 or 2 scenes that might have strengthened that a little bit more, giving more a little shock and awe. Because I feel like if I had known these characters that you were introducing, this turning point would have been a lot more shock and awe. And I would have been like, oh my God. More than I already fucking was. But it would have been stronger. And the big climactic end fight scene, I enjoyed. I had a good time with it for what I got of it. I wish I had more of it. I wish I would have had that extended out more. It felt like it ended too quickly. Like it was just, here you go, problem solved. And what? Some of the other fight scenes early on in the book, we had a lot more tug and pull, give and take. More of our hero not possibly winning this battle. But the ending, it was like a foregone conclusion at that point. And I just felt like the other fight scenes and battle scenes and even verbal assault scenes, they were stronger than the actual big climactic end fight scene. And I'm like, that's where I want all of that verbal, back and forth, attack, assault, fall back, strategic. That's where I wanted it. And I didn't get that. I got that earlier in the book. And I wish I would have had that in that very final scene because it would have been so much more impactful. It was impactful, but it would have been more if I would have gotten more of that grit that I know she's capable of because she did it in the first half of the book. For a spice rating, I did give this a 2 chili peppers. 2 chili peppers, yes. We do have some graphic content and we have a definite ownership of sexuality in all forms. We do have 2 characters here that get to represent LBGTQ plus rep. I think I said that wrong. If I didn't, I apologize. And they're fun. They're a fun couple. I enjoy them. I enjoy how she incorporated in the story. They are a nice, almost comic relief for this story. Because when they do come up, it's a little bit more of a serious tone. And then we have our heroine really owning her sexuality and saying, fuck stereotypes, fuck societal norms. I'm gonna do what I want because I love you and I care about you and you have earned my trust. And I fucking adored that. I adored that. And I loved her openness. I love Seraphine's openness. There is one scene, and I have to say this, she starts to undress because they're gonna go skinny dipping. And Lissandro's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is not appropriate. She's like, what? There's no one around. Everybody, I'm about to take my dress off. Who fucking cares? Nobody? Okay, cool. And I love that personality trait she gave her. I love that she didn't give a fuck, that she owned it, and she was content and welcoming with herself, and she was very sure of herself and her own sexuality. I love that about her character because Seraphine is a badass, like I said, in and of herself. Like, I could have a whole book about that bitch and I'd be fucking happy. She's awesome. She's great. I loved her. And them together was just, mwah, chef's kiss. That's fucking great. My final thoughts about this story. There is definitely more to come and I want to know what it is. I want to know so bad. I cannot wait for book 2. I had a very good time with this. This was so much fun. I loved the interesting take on Zorro. I loved how she uniquely took it and made it her own. I definitely appreciated that very, very much. I think lovers of Zorro story will appreciate this story. I think people who love fantasy romance would enjoy this story. I think people who enjoy sword fighting and mystical elements would enjoy this story. I think this story could definitely hit a wide genre of people. And this is only the first installment, so I don't even know what is going to happen in the second installment. I don't even know where she could go with the second installment because the way this book ended, it ended where the second installment may never happen, or the second installment will happen with completely different characters, and then we have another installment where it brings everybody together. Like, the ending of this is so open for interpretation. I loved it. I had a great, great time with this. So, to Kathryn, thank you for asking me to review your book. Thank you for sharing your story with me. And thank you for understanding my time constraints. I really do appreciate you and everything you did. I had a great fucking time with this story. This story, definitely I have already recommended to some people to read because I had such a good time with it. And if I did not say earlier, I gave this book 4 stars. I had a great time with it and I cannot wait for book 2. So thank you again for seeking me out and asking me to review your book. I really do appreciate your trust and faith in me. And I hope you enjoyed this. And to all my subscribers out there, this is something pretty special. I recommend you probably go check this one out. And it is now currently available on Kindle and on Amazon. So I had a great time with this. That's all I got for you guys today. I will see you guys all soon with another video.